Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Sorry for the awkward start. I didn't know it was recording. A little bit of a delay there. Never happened before. Hopefully, it never happens again. But nevertheless, uh, so yesterday I made a therapy session, um, or was it the day before? It's hard to keep up since I've been getting up at weird hours. It's like 5 in the morning right now. Just got through taking a shower. I've been up since 4, but nevertheless, I made a therapy session yesterday. Said all the things that I wanted to say about the riverboat fight and uploaded it, or so I thought. Walked away from the phone for about an hour, came back, assumed that it already uploaded, because clearly it doesn't take an hour to upload a video, even though it was a long video, and erased the video with intentions of making another video, assuming it had already uploaded on YouTube. It had not. It had only gotten to 50%. So that is lost forever for those who are wondering if I had something to say about the riverboat. Yeah, I sat there for an hour and talked about that. And you'll never hear it because, for whatever reason, it did not upload at a regular speed time. It really didn't. I walked away from the phone for at least an hour. So I guess it was never meant to be. Whatever was said there was not meant for me to say, I guess. I don't know. But I got up this morning and, of course, now feel compelled to give a little more conversation to that. I've given a little more thought to that, and I guess this is my thought. I, too, like a lot of people, saw that and immediately went to my ego as it pertains to my race. my ego said a lot of things that had nothing to do with whatever was going on in the situation. And I understood. And it's funny because I was asking myself about 3 days ago, and I was going to make a therapy session about it. I said, what is the next phase of activate race relations in this country? Because every time there's either a political moment where we're going to have to vote for something big or something like that, or a lull in news where there ain't nothing to really talk about, you can look up every 2 or 3 years and see a race button being pushed, whether it's someone dying in the streets by way of the cops and now we all rally around it, or somebody, of some sort gets into a situation where suddenly we're talking about it, or it's a Black Lives Matter thing that gets triggered by something, usually police brutality. But every once in a while you can look up and just realize everybody will be in their feelings about their race for about 4 months right before the election, and then it'll fade away. No matter how serious it gets, no matter how severely into our feelings we get, eventually we're going to decompress about the subject, only to find ourselves riled up about it again about 2 years later. And the pattern is very clear. This is what I feel is probably the next phase of that. See, when you believe in God, like I do, you also understand that he has enemies, spiritual ones. Some of this stuff could be a conspiracy theory. Some of this stuff could just be natural spiritual warfare that plays itself out this way. I'm not certain. I don't know the secrets of this world. But what I do know is the patterns. And the pattern is, now it's the time for us to get riled up in our feelings about being black folks. Now it's the time for white folks to get riled up in their feelings, or however that plays out for their perspective in their community. It's just the time, by way of whatever this circumstance is going to be, that riles us up. And the publications, the people behind the curtain, the one that we mention all the time, are always going to provide themselves the opportunity to suggest. That's what it is. So the predominantly black publications are going to play into it from a haha black folks won the fight situation perspective, and the predominantly white publications are going to look at this as a devastating event that should have never taken place. It's just how they're going to paint the picture. Nobody's going to paint the picture of this doesn't make either community look good, and we are being manipulated by those who want to publicize this nonsense and who want to get us riled up about our race right before the political situation once again. No one's going to paint that picture. I look up and I see some of the black publications, and no one is pointing out that this is yet another example of why white people should probably use deadly force against black folks instead of swinging with us. Why are we celebrating that? And the very essence of what gets us killed is national and international events such as these that show us as brute animals, the same animals that they've been painting us out to be since before we were taken as slaves. And the first thing these publications do, the first thing these pandering individuals do, because some of them are not our friends, but they act like they love us when they really are just trying to suggest to us who we are and who the world is around us, which doesn't provide much hope. Now I'm watching these individuals. I've been watching one specific individual for a while. I ain't said his name very much, and I can't think of what it is right now. It's probably for the betterment. But this dude is always there for black people. He's always there. When something goes down, he's the one letting us know how we should feel. Always playing to the community's more or less collective thought. And I'm telling you, that's a dangerous thing. Even though those who usually oppose it are often taking positions that I don't agree with, that's not the point. When you have a collective black thought, there are people who can play into that thought and manipulate themselves into our trust so that they can sway us one way or another. And I believe, I'm almost certain that this individual does that. And I cannot prove it. But he's always online giving us the good energy for the black folks. But he's always also suggesting something that puts us in a position to hold bad energy. Meaning, whatever position he shows us, he's going to play or pander to our emotions. He's going to tell us what we want to hear. Then he's going to suggest to us some outlandish nonsense that's going to ultimately make us more angry about the subject. It never fails. And in this case, he's painting the picture that we should be championing hitting women over the head with chairs. Hitting everybody over the head with doing all of the stuff that happened in this thing. This dude is one of the first ones making all the jokes, not painting the picture of how this can leave us in danger. Because the first thing I think about is cops. Cops, the same police brutality we talk about, looking at images like this and saying, if I'm going to stop that, I don't want to be, we can't be swinging at them dudes. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want people who are sitting back hating us already, thinking whatever confrontation I get into it with one of them, I had better have my rifle with me. A lot of them already think that, but in seeing something like that, that's going to be what their minds go to right now. And giving us opportunities, treating us like regular human beings, not clutching their purses when they walk by us. These are the type of images that are played to both sides to help solidify that is necessary. Not only as it pertains to them, but as it pertains to us and how we should comply with that energy. Because after all, look how much stronger they are. This is wrong. It's a suggestion. It's an evil suggestion at that black people are brute force, dominant natured animals that can't handle themselves without fighting. Now, granted, this man was attacked and they came to his defense, and all of that is wonderful. It's painted so perfectly so that nobody will question whether or not we should be looking at what we're seeing here, whether or not it should be painted the way that it's painted. I get it. The event itself, as I always say, it's all down pat. The story lines up. You know what I'm saying? The story lines up. And like I said, this might not be a conspiracy. It just might be spiritual warfare. These might just be events that the enemy is able to use coincidentally. And of course, his imps are going to snap to it, right? They're going to play their part. So all of this, if you believe in spirituality, you don't necessarily think it's just the cooperation of man always coordinating events that happen to look like coincidences that play into real things. It's a spiritual warfare, as I've said many times in this video already. But I'm telling you, we got to overcome what reflects poorly upon us. We can champion the idea of rallying around one another to defend one of us, but do not be confused about the lies that are being told to you about what will get you the respect that you ultimately are not receiving, black people. It ain't gonna be events like this. It's gonna be conversations such as this where we question how we should feel about events like this, who's showing us events like this. That's going to be what ultimately courses us into being respected in the way that we should. We need to question more and champion less of anything that would otherwise make us look worse. Not because it doesn't rile up the feelings within us that make us stronger, or make us feel like we're more prideful, or make us feel like we're finally getting some get back, because it's definitely going to do that. Don't get it twisted. I found myself warped up in that nonsense too, looking like, okay, for all my ancestors, this feels right. But I don't know if that feels right. You know why? Do you know why? Because I know exactly what happens when everybody sees that video. We're not the only ones watching it. Every race all over the world is watching black Americans defend themselves, no doubt, but beat the dog crap out of those people in brutal ways. And what I know is displaying that strength is no different than a monkey displaying that strength, a dinosaur displaying that strength, a plague displaying that strength, or anything else they fear. It is dangerous for that of which they fear. I know this. I've known this my whole life. The bully's the one that needs to be fearful, because he's the one that's going to be in true life and death danger anytime he gets in any conflict. Because people are going to assume that in that fight, they could lose their life, or in that fight, it could go real bad for them. You understand what I'm saying? So every time he get into it with anybody, he need to wonder. If that's going to be the person that's pull out a gun, if that's going to be the person that knows how to defeat him, all of that. It's not as simple. A lot of times we champion that bully behavior. It's many a bully in the ground, friends. I don't walk around as if I'm fearful. I just understand I'm surrounded. As a black man in America, as a black people in this world, we are surrounded. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why I come from a perspective of we need to protect our image. And what's happening in 2023 is our image is running rampant in a negative way, regardless of if it's justifiable, whether we're protecting ourselves or us standing for what it is that we believe in. It's always going to have us looking bad in this country so long as who's telling the story keeps telling it. And that's what it really boils down to. And we cannot be confused about what reflects poorly and what reflects positively upon our religion, our race, or whatever it is that we identify with. If you're going to put out bad energy, it's going to come back to you. If you're going to champion people who are weaker than you, being able to be crushed under your foot, you best believe there's going to be people championing you falling, whether it's justifiable or not. You got to understand this. We can't follow the world and what it's doing because we have too much up against us that we have to try to overcome. We have to be 10 times smarter than that of what's coming at us, black people. And the one thing we can't do is play into the narratives that they want us to play into, which is championing when we look our worst. We have a bad habit of championing when we look our worst right now. Allowing ourselves to be confused about what it is that we should respect within ourselves while allowing others to disrespect us by calling it culture. This is yet another copy and paste of that in this country. I'm not kidding. Where is the adults in the room? They're certainly not behind the curtain telling us what it is that we are and who it is that we are and what it is we about. None of them care enough about us to tell the truth about what this does, what they think of us when they see this, what they can now do in regards to helping us manipulate our own view of ourselves, how they manipulate us by way of these images. They ain't never gonna have those conversations. How this can affect voting, how this can affect ultimately how you spend, how this ultimately can affect your mental health and the people around you, all the way down to customer service and various different things that we all affect with each other's time and space. Biracial people and how they gotta pick sides in situations like this. It's not just a conversation that we're having. There's a much more responsible conversation to have in regards to people treating people with respect. You know what I'm saying? Looking at these events and separating our racial hurt and the trauma between us from an isolated events between two parties that don't represent our ancestors, that don't represent the hatred in the hearts of people we think are whatever. You understand what I'm saying? There's no responsible conversations being had around this to my eardrums in places where people are being gathered to have these conversations, and that is wicked. That's wickedness. I'm not saying jump into the church in the pulpit and just be all kinds of holy. I'm not saying that that's what everybody's walk is to be. We just need to be a bit more intelligent, I think, as it pertains to how we allow ourselves to view certain conversations and view certain images. We just went through Black Lives Matter. We just went through George Floyd. We just went through all different types of stuff. But deadly force used, unnecessarily deadly force used. Why? Why would they treat us like we the Incredible Hulk, if not for so many times where they were able to tell each other that this is who we were? Who's having that conversation? If you really love the black community and you see that angle, why aren't you having that conversation? When you know the collective black thought is taught not to have that conversation. I say collective black thought is not as if it's something that's wrong, as if it's something that's been poisoned. The well is poisoned. We have cultures within our collective thought that make it so that we agree to certain things that lead us to imminent doom. It's a fact. We need to understand that as we continue to nod our head in agreement. Some of the stuff that we do, we've been taught how to hate ourselves, how to belittle ourselves, how to want less for ourselves, how to think of others who have less in certain natural ways as if they are more than us. Like, these things aren't natural, but we agree to them, we identify that we agree to them, but we can't seem to step outside of those understandings to do things that work against the traps that only work within those agreements. It is so very important that we evolve here. It is so very important that we stop allowing people who are not us to mold how we're viewed by people who want to know us better. There's nothing more disheartening for a mind like mine than to see the constant molding of who it is that ultimately I'm not. And I don't want to personalize it because that's so narcissistic to say you're ruining my image, mine. It's not just about me, but that I'm so different. And that I don't see any representation of what it is I am in any of these places where people are gathered together to have these conversations is why I speak the way I do. None of these thoughts that I have are in any of these places. And I'm like, they need a suggestion of new thought. Not just someone who's going to be a contrarian, but someone who's going to say, yo, I see what it is that we're taught not to. And that is, we need to protect the image of ourselves. We need to protect the image of those who see us. And we need to protect the villages that raise our children around us. And if we're not bringing those villages to a place where they have each and everything that that child needs, 2 parents, resources, foundation of ownership and land, situations where they can get to school comfortably and safe, protection, people around them who understand how to manage finances, who understand how to responsibly use firearms, who understand the importance of consistency and self-respect. These are things that we need in our collective households, regardless of what religion or what have you, what race we are. But if you are poor, these are things that you need to help build the foundation that'll get you out of that hole. And if you have cultures that are teaching you the opposite, and people who are teaching you how to champion things that are ultimately going to force you into perspectives that will lead you into prison, have you nodding your head in agreements that have you engaging in energies that won't work out for you, If this is what we're going to continue to agree to, we're going to find ourselves further and further behind the 8 ball there. And this is the type of collective event that has people looking at us saying, look at them champion them, beating up people that they could obviously beat up in their sleep. They're bullies, and they need to be shot at, to be stopped. And I'm too smart to allow that to go without a retort. I love my people. As in, I want to see them continue to be able to survive what's coming at them, what surrounds them. We do not need to continue to be as undisciplined as we've been. I understand that we were coerced into being as we are, and it's hard to change. But I'm telling you, if you know better, you do better. It's one of my favorite things to say. And as I continue to learn better, I continue to share what it is that the Lord puts in my heart to tell all of us. We do not need to allow ourselves to confirm the suggested nature of what it is that they say we are, who it is they say we are. We don't have to keep confirming those stereotypes. We don't. There is more to this life than the fight that we see around us in this country, or the fight that we see in regards to race circumstances, black folks. I know that we've been put in this position to have our perspective, whether we resent it to the fullest and reject the victim mentality, or we embrace it, or however it goes. The reality is, it ain't a freaking mentality. It is the history of the world. It is the history of the world. You can erase what's in the books, but you cannot erase the trauma. We can deny the trauma to help cope with the trauma, but it doesn't take away the pain. The things that have happened to the dark people in this world have been horrible for a long time. For long as the books have been written, for as long as they've been read, all of it. We can deny this in 2023 if we want, as a generation running around like we're the first and the last one here, if you want to. Your kids, they're still gonna have to deal with those traumas. Your grandkids and everyone who comes after us, they're still gonna have to deal with the differences in the skin color, still gonna have to deal with differences in texture of hair. We still have to deal with the differences that come with that as the world itself changes, as the sun gets hotter, as elements start to do what it is that they do in evolution. Skin is still gonna be worn. How are we gonna deal with this? Are we gonna continue to initiate stereotypes that reinforce distance so that communication is not found and that compassion is nowhere to be found? Are we going to continue to allow our history to continue to reinforce who it is that we don't want to be, that coerces us into spaces that do not reflect positively on our last names? Are we going to continue to engage in traumatic, engaging cultures that ultimately destroy the jump start of our children? Upbringing. How do we get out of this trance that we're in that allows us to destroy ourselves from within, while allowing others who are watching the situation not have those communications necessary to help us if necessary, or to be helped by us in whatever circumstances they have? Because all of us are going through something. We're all dealing with this. In one way or another, we're all trying to find our way through this world. Up against it. And we don't need the confusion that's in place, that's telling you and telling me that I am this or you are that, and that we need to fight about it. I don't know any of them people on that riverboat. All I know is that people was fighting, man. And they happen to be different colors in the situation. And that's bad for race relations. But most importantly, it's bad for their record. Because they're going to be arrested and they're going to be remembered for upstarting whatever this was. Which I hope don't turn into nothing but yet another pulse in the racial, whatever the hell you call this thing, every 4 months. Or 2 years, or whatever this is, every election time. truth be told, man, I don't trust nothing I see anymore, especially if it's shown to the masses by way of these publications that don't want to stir up nothing but the suggestive nature of a doubtful mind. You should be concerned. You should be angry. You should be riled up in defense of your race. You should be riled up in defense of whatever it is that you believe in. You should be riled up against those who are in defense of their race. It's like, it's so much suggestive nature till I just sit up and say, wait a minute, can we just first look and say, who the hell are you and why do you keep telling me all of this? Who the hell are you and why you keep showing me all these things? How long have you been here suggesting all of this? And they find out it's been since the beginning of, well, probably Western world, since they realize they can sway people in various different directions by way of suggestion. They could run the numbers up and rig the game by way of applied methods of entertainment. Oh, hey, give them that. Oh, give them this formula. That works. Give it to them again and again and again. Of course it's going to work. You've given it to us 176,000 times. And when I think of that for me is more so about the music industry and the pop culture and the same old riffs you keep hearing in the same music. I mean, we're just trained, people. That's what it really comes down to. We're trained to love, we're trained to hate, we're trained to apply our compassion where they want us to. And most importantly, respect, whom we definitely should, and disrespect or leave the room to see respect as something different for different peoples, which is something that doesn't really translate when you're walking amongst people. Because if you choose to pay somebody different types of disrespect, you're going to find different types of resistance. No, you're going to get the same type of resistance. People don't respect disrespect in person. So why did we say, okay, well, it's okay for her to shake her butt, but if she's from a different race in a different place in a different way, and we see it differently, it's like, no, it's a woman. A woman is a woman is a woman, is it not? Regardless of how you identify or what have you. So this is what it is. We need to respect everybody. We need to understand that if we're going to measure such things as race relations, you got to know where to start in regards to the history. Some people are not starting from the same place, in regards to what the history is. Some people been through more. Some peoples have gone through things that other people, so to speak, cannot relate to. And there has to be some compassion and some open-mindedness and some solidarity applied to everybody's situation from every angle. If we can't do that, then we're going to have a hard time moving forward, regardless of how many agreements we have, regardless of how confused we ultimately agree to be. At the end of the day, people are entirely too upset with each other. Why? I would imagine because they've bought into all of this. Let's just be honest. The people were entirely too upset with one another on that riverboat. Never mind what was really going on. They were beating each other up like they were at war. Like they were in a race war. Over boats being placed in places they're not supposed to be and being moved. It sounds like something like a quick lawsuit can fix. You don't necessarily have to do time for that. How did it get to a point where they were swinging in the first place if not for someone deciding to initiate an all-out war? Because it was nothing but demonstrative actions and movement and all of this. Somebody might have said a magic word, but there was no reason for dude. And I watched the thing, obviously. There was no reason for that man to come running out of nowhere, but to initiate that energy. It looked like a demonstration, just like I said about several other events in this country. It looked like a demonstration. Like, let's get this going and let's make it pretty and let's have a crowd around that has commentary so that this can be presented to the world in such a way. Look, man, I don't trust nothing I see no more. That's all I'm telling y'all. When these events take place, the timing tells me what I need to know, not necessarily what's going on around the situation. Timing lets me know that this is an event thought out beforehand. Now, whether it was thought out by humans, for which all of us can find math for, or, like I said, spiritual warfare, for which is on high, which a lot of us probably won't be able to put together, but still makes sense to me. Either way, it looks like deliberate bull. It really does. This particular event looks like some bull crap. I'm sorry everybody got beat up. I don't think the punches were fake. I clearly, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I do think that this was some bull crap. I do. They got the bull crap meter pointed all over it. It's got everything having to do with getting the people going. That's what that has to do with. That's exactly what that feels like. All right, we got something else to get them going. And I just want everybody to know, I ain't no better than anybody down under that boat. If I was in that situation and the event played out in real life, I'm probably just another brother swinging. Honestly, I don't think I'm no better. I pray about being better though. You know what I mean? I pray about understanding that that's not something you want to engage in, because at the end of the day, not only is it bad for your person, in regards to you going to jail, like we said, having a record or whatever the case may be, if that's not something you already have, you don't need that for your start. As a start in an event like that that's going to be so publicized. And not only that, but you can see how people are championing this as black people winning the race war against the whites and getting back for the ancestors. And what does that do? What does that do? But place more of a distance between us and the people who are ultimately around us every day, ultimately in control of how things go in our country, voting and all of this different stuff. We already got issues. You know what I mean? And that's the part that bothers me. It's like, it's not like at the end of this event we get some trophy and then from there, like the wealth gap, you know, we get like $1 trillion for winning the race war. No, you get nothing. You get nothing for that. You just pass that war to your kids and they're even more brutal. You pass that war to their grandkids and they're even more brutal. And it just goes on and on and on. And it leaves for no room for the people who are here who have to deal with that nonsense, with conundrums, with, you know, family members, and like I said, biracial people, DNA, they have to deal with these different things when stuff like this happens, and it ain't good, man. It ain't good. Fact of the matter is, we have to deal with our history. We have to deal with our history. You can't dig up old bones and hold people accountable. You know what I mean? It's done. Whatever we went through is done. Conversations may need to be had. Maybe even some people need to work out their conflicts some other way. But at the end of the day, we don't need kids and babies carrying on this fight. This is why I like having these conversations. Because it's time for us to stop passing these hateful wars to our children. They're going to have to deal with the history too. But let's teach them how to live without championing this bullcrap. And stop letting the childish imps in between us who want to manipulate us, force us into teaching our children the wrong things any further. Because clearly we were taught the wrong stuff. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I'm ready to break the matrix entirely as it pertains to anything that has to do with black images, anything that has to do with having people continue to war with strangers, an open-ended fight that never ends. I'm ready to do away with the upkeep of that bullcrap. Somebody needs to suggest something else out here, man. Somebody needs to say, yo, yes, there's pain there. Yes, there's resentment there. Yes, there's some confusion there amongst individuals who think however they do. But what we don't need is the confusion. We don't need people telling me that they hate you. No, you don't get to define who they are. Just like you don't get to define who I am. Just because you saw some people fighting on a riverboat, defending themselves in whatever way they had to, does not mean that I'm so strong as to take down 8 men with my own body. You don't need to use deadly force to arrest me. You don't need to use deadly force to arrest my brother. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the conversation. That's the only damn conversation we need to be having. Since you don't allow us to walk around and defend ourselves with weapons in certain states, from state to state to state. California, we unarmed. Quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? Gotta be. New York, unarmed. Approaches as such. These hands ain't just because you've seen Mike Tyson, just because you've seen Riverboat Larry, whatever, just because you've seen LeBron James and all these athletes does not mean that all of us need to be treated like we're the Incredible Hulk when you see us. Okay, that's the only conversation I really want to have, because at the end of the day, that's what we're really up against. It's the fear of our flesh and our intentions, for which are not properly defined and heavily manipulated. trying to make this place safer for people. And how is it safer for others too? How is it safe for them? We gotta wonder about the villages around the people that we ultimately are quote unquote up against. They have children too. Now, a lot of us are too hurt or too evil ourselves to care, but we can't let those who have that mentality control what happens to those children. I'm sorry. If you're indifferent, fair, but we have to care, because at the end of the day, they're going to be in charge of what happens going forward, just like every generation is. And we need to be more responsible about what it is that they are inheriting. I cannot stress this enough. And that's really my point of view, man. I'm running out of time to speak. My phone does what it does. It needs to be upgraded. But this is where we're at, man. I just wanted to come here and give y'all something different. I don't think I'm better than anybody on that boat. Like I said, I'd have been defending myself. I'm happy black folks came to defend that brother. That's not... If the story was as it is, then it was not a bad show of black support. We need black support from black people. Okay, that's fine to say. But what we don't need is to have people yet again walking away from us, seeing us championing, us demolishing humans. You know what I'm saying? Just beating the hell out of them. And then from there, that be the only energy they get. They're supposed to walk away and feel great about black folks after this? No, they're supposed to walk away and feel resentful for black folks after this. And that is the point. But that ain't the only point that's going to be had, because they're going to hear mine too. I ain't championing that stuff because I don't know who any of them people are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know any of them people. So why would I want to see them getting beat up or beating each other up or whatever? That's culture that teaches me to want to see some stupid stuff like that. People could have got killed out there. You lose their lives out there. Don't come back from stuff. We get so frivolous about death. People don't understand death is long lasting. It has effects on people. Even if the person deserved it, their kid didn't. Deserves losing their father. You know what I'm saying? These type of things, we are too frivolous with that. We're not wise enough to behold death properly as a mankind yet. We haven't evolved into a space where we truly even perceive this stuff properly, in my humble opinion. When we walk around like we control the world like we're gods, you ain't even gotten to your full form yet. And so that's the point. We're still acting like cavemen as it pertains to certain stuff that we champion, certain things that we celebrate. And this is one of them. Freaking cavemen, man. Gladiator sports, barbarians, children. We need to grow up. That's what I see, a bunch of people that really need to grow the hell up and know what's best for them as it pertains to what reflects poorly and possibly upon their names and upon their people, and ultimately what's going to coerce them into certain conflicts later on that they don't want. Certain circumstances that make it hard to work together when you need to. Tired of this. Tired of acting like I don't see the angles. People need to work together now. They think they're going to have to be at odds with one another yet again because of another example placed in front of them or where they couldn't get along. Get the freak along. That's the point. And they ain't figured that part out yet. We just went through a whole pandemic where it almost killed the whole world. And we ain't figured out this racial stuff is nonsense. And these people want to keep it up, need to be, given what it is that they get. Least of all, no more opportunities to stir up more of this. You know the word. I'm trying not to cuss in this video. But I'm praying prayers that allow me to say the right things. Hopefully the Lord will allow me to upload this video. I meant well. Black power. I don't know what to tell you people, man. I just want to see everybody safe. Everybody. BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. Out.